One of the most well-known car makers of all time, an Italian man's vision formed into a lifetime of creating excellent supercars and motorsport domination. No story would be complete without its ups and downs. Sit back, relax, because this video is a long one. This is the history of Ferrari. Enzo Ferrari was born on the 18th of February 1898. At first he was just a simple boy, but it wasn't until he was 10 years old where he experienced Felice Nazzaro's win at the 1908 Circuito di Bologna. By the way, if there's any Italian words here, I'm going to butcher all of them. It was here where Enzo realised that he wanted to be a racing driver. Enzo would later serve in World War I, where his father and older brother tragically lost their lives during a widespread flu outbreak. Enzo was sick himself, but he survived. After being rejected by Fiat, Enzo became a test driver for Milan-based car manufacturer CMN. He was then promoted to a racing driver of the team, where he made his debut in racing. By 1920, Enzo was racing for Alfa Romeo. However, in 1932, Enzo retired from racing after the shocking death of Antonio Ascari in 1925 and the birth of his son Dino. In 1929, Enzo formed a smaller team with Alfa to help improve their cars. This brand was called, you guessed it, Scuderia Ferrari. It features over 40 drivers and brought remarkable success to the Alfa Romeo brand. It was here where the famous prancing horse logo would appear. The logo came from the legendary fighter pilot Francesco Baracca, who during World War I shot down 34 enemy planes. However, he was shot down in 1918. Enzo, who knew Baracca personally, used the logo for good luck after he received a necklace with a prancing horse on it. The yellow background represents the colour of Modena, Enzo's hometown, and the SF stands for Scuderia Ferrari. Alfa Romeo had partnered with Ferrari until 1933, where financial trouble forced the two to split. By 1937, Alfa had regained control of Scuderia Ferrari and dissolved it, and changing it to Alfa Corsa. Enzo was the sporting director, but he left in 1939 and began to supply parts for the military in World War II. After the war had ended, Enzo formed the brand we know today, Ferrari. The first Ferrari was the 125S. It used a 1.5 litre V12 engine and it made its debut on May 11, 1947 at the Piacenza racing circuit, where it didn't finish. However, 2 weeks later at the Rome GP, it won despite having issues in practice. Out of the 14 races the 125S entered, it won 6 of them. Not bad for a first try. In 1950, Ferrari had set its eyes on newly formed Formula 1. Their first win came at the 1951 British Grand Prix, where Enzo apparently cried like a baby. Ferrari would win their first of 31 F1 World titles in 1952, but because racing teams are expensive, Enzo began selling cars to the public reluctantly. Originally, Enzo wanted his cars to be yellow. However, the FIA had stated that all Italian cars must be red, and although the rule no longer exists today, Ferraris haven't changed since. However, in 1962, Enzo nearly ruined it all with the Great Walkout. His hard-ass personality made him a controversial figure on the track, and after a controversial 1961 World Championship, the sales manager, chief engineer and other key figures left the company and set up a rival team called ATS. They managed to take away Phil Hill, Ferrari's top driver at the time. This was the least of Enzo's worries, as at the time the 250 models were being developed. They knew the car would be complete, but they didn't know if it would be successful. Thankfully, it was. The mid-engine Dino races paved the way for success. John Surtees won the world title in 1964 after having a tense battle with Jim Clark and Graham Hill. The Dino road car sold well, and other models like the 275 and Daytona were on the way. Meanwhile, ATS had a troubled Formula 1 1963 campaign and folded at the end of the year. During the 60s, Ferrari would begin to form many other rivalries. In fact, Lamborghini only made supercars after an argument between himself and Enzo. Lamborghini complained that Enzo's car's clutches were unreliable. Enzo didn't take him seriously, as he was just a tractor maker. And in a way to get back at Enzo, Mr. Lamborghini created the 350 GT. The most popular rivalry was the one between Ferrari and Ford. Ferrari and Ford had agreed that Ford would buy struggling Ferrari. However, hours before the agreement was settled, A change in the contract meant that Enzo would lose control of his brand and his racing team, and so Enzo called it off. Ford's goal was to beat Ferrari at Le Mans. After a few failed attempts, Ford finally beat Ferrari in 1966, 67, 68 and 69. In early 1969, Fiat bought 50% of Ferrari to boost funds for the brand. This allowed the factory to expand and get parts from Fiat, and the production was also transferred to Fiat's Chiron plant, where further development of the Dino engine would come in. In 1988, Ferrari released the F40, the last car Enzo was involved with. Weeks after its unveiling, Enzo would die on the 14th of August 1988. His death wasn't made public until 2 days later, as his birth wasn't registered until 2 days after he was born. Weeks after his death, Ferrari would score a 1-2 finish at the Italian Grand Prix, and the F40 would become the holy grail of supercars. In 2002, Ferrari released the Enzo to commemorate the company's 60th anniversary. Since his death, Ferrari has won 13 F1 titles. However, Ferrari hasn't won an F1 title since 2008, and over the years, they have come extremely close. In 2018, Ferrari has won 2 out of the 4 races so far, and they are leading the Constructors' Championship. As well as being competitive in motorsport, Ferrari's cars have been the benchmark for driving enjoyment, but most of all, Ferrari as a company has become one of the most respected, appreciated, and well-known companies of all time.